It's the next day. Actually, I think it's Monday now in the video, and the last part you watched was done on a Friday. This means the molds have had plenty of time to dry and become fairly strong, though plaster won't be fully dry over the course of a few days usually. But I do think it's a useful strategy when dealing with waste molds to wait as long as you can, since they're not that strong. They're made to be broken apart, and so they're barely strong enough. So giving them a few days extra to properly dry or to dry a bit more is going to be smart. The tools I'm using are a hammer, a paint scraper, and an old beaten up wood chisel. The wood chisel is really not used for chiseling any wood, and if you are using a wood chisel for chiseling wood, do not use them for banging plaster molds with, as they'll be useless for chiseling wood after that. Or at least you gotta learn how to sharpen your chisel if you're gonna be doing that sort of stuff. The chisel and the paint scraper are used to get into the gap between the wooden board and the plaster mold, and then pushed in to cut the clay, the surface tension of the clay, before being used as leverage to get the molds off the board. Perhaps it would have been a good idea to add a little piece of clay along the edge of the mold that would have allowed for a tool to sort of sneak in without damaging the mold so much. While the edges of our molds did break during the molding, the breaking didn't travel all the way to the edge of where the casting is going to be, so it won't end up impacting the final result, which is very nice. You'll see once the mold gets flipped over that the edge is thicker than what we broke off, which might be another reason to build a nice wide plaster wall around the edges of waste molds, since then it can break without actually damaging the part that matters. Ultimately, perhaps this trait was something desirable in a waste mold that I sort of accidentally fumbled upon, but I'm not so sure about that either. But that's what I'm going to tell myself to feel a little bit better about what happened here. With the mold opened, you can see that the clay really didn't come out of the mold but got stuck in it. This is because of the undercuts inside the mold as discussed above. I was certainly expecting this, so I wasn't surprised. No problem. This issue is then made much greater, of course, by the fact that the clay was really dry, which meant that all the clay got left behind inside the mold. Normally, I would recommend using wooden tools for these tasks, or rake tools or loop tools in the beginning and then wooden tools, as wooden tools are less likely to damage the inside of the plaster mold, plaster being fairly soft. However, the clay is so dry here that I was nervous my wooden tools would break, and since I use my wooden tools for sculpture, I don't want to break them making molds. So instead, I took the risk and decided to use metal spatula tools here to remove most of the clay. The easiest way to get the clay out of the mold is going to be to remove the bulk of the clay and leave a thin layer of clay inside the mold, which can then dry out a touch, shrink off the surface, and then be peeled out without too many issues and without leaving too much clay behind. Another reason to dig out the clay until there is a thin layer of clay left that you can then peel out is that then you won't have to get your tools too close up to the surface of the mold, no matter if you're using metal or wood tools. This surface, the inside of the mold that is of course the eventual surface of our casting. So if we damage the inside of the mold, then we're going to have that damage show up in the casting itself, which is not ideal. As the molds are getting clean here from clay, you'll see that they still have this clay discoloration left inside of them. Not clay residue exactly, but discoloration from the clay itself. Perhaps a thin layer of muddy clay or something like that. And I tried to solve this issue by using an abrasive burlap piece to scrub most of the thin dirt out, which worked really well. The burlap is just soft enough and not so abrasive that it's going to damage the plaster. This helped, but I decided I would clean them even more, just to be sure. But this is why the molds seem or look so much cleaner by the time we're ready to add the release agent into them. It's because they've been scrubbed in the sink using water. I didn't use any soap, just water and a short bristle brush. If you wash them too much, the plaster becomes soft as it absorbs water again, and you can damage it even with a brush, or sort of scrub some of the details out if you will. So make sure you wash them out pretty fast. Do as much cleaning as you can without water before doing the last little bit with water. And I will say that the clay cleans out very nicely and easily off the plaster. So that was a good surprise, for once. The molds are made of plaster and the castings are going to be made of acrylic resin and plaster. And these materials, the mold and the casting, will stick to each other more than we'd like and probably become impossible to separate from each other unless we release the inside of the molds with some kind of mold release. This is something we normally don't do much of, since the silicone I use for most of my molds really doesn't stick to anything that I cast in. I would say that for the most part, silicone only really sticks to itself. We're going to use Murphy's oil soap. When I started at FAA, we were told we needed this soap, Murphy's oil soap, which I realized very quickly you can only get in America, and being from Norway, it was sort of hard to get. I'm going to thin it out with a little bit of water, about 50-50, to help it flow nicely. Thinning it out with water does make it foam up a bit more as you brush it into the mold, which is annoying, but it keeps the layer thin, and once the oil soap, or the water rather, sort of dries out a bit and the oily soap is left on the surface of your mold, you can brush away the foam using a dry brush and sort of wiggle it around a little bit. Get it out of any nooks and crannies, you don't end up with bubble texture on your sculpture. Perhaps thinning regular dishwashing soap and using that here would work as well as an alternative to those outside the US who can't get the coveted Murphy's oil soap. You can always also, if you're in Europe, make it to Florence and borrow some from me. I got a big stash of Murphy's oil soap in my studio. Don't tell any of the students, because then I'm gonna have to let them have it. The mold making is finally done here. We've released our molds and we can now make our positives. We're going to start making the nose in plaster, then do the eye in acrylic resin. The processes are going to be more or less the same, and the molds have been treated the same up until this point. At least the inside of the molds have been treated the same up until this point. As you've seen, there have been some differences in how the outside of the molds were treated. I brush plaster evenly distributed everywhere inside the mold, building up thin layers at the time, in the same way that we did when making the mold. The burlap layer was started once the second bowl of plaster was mixed and the splash coat was firm to the touch but still cold. This ensures a good bond. I try not to add too much plaster when working with the burlap, since more plaster means a heavier casting and not necessarily a stronger casting. It's the burlap that provides us with the strength here, so we need it to be soaked and stuck inside the plaster, but only using the minimal amount of plaster to do so. To keep the casting from having air bubbles between the layers, a layer of plaster is first brushed onto the inside of the casting before the burlap is added into the mold. To make the casting even stronger, the edges are reinforced, building a plaster wall using cream cheese plaster. The edges are always the weakest part, and having a thicker edge helps the entire construction of the casting to be much stronger. With the nose in plaster done, we leave it to rest for now. We're going to let it rest overnight. We have another feature to do, which is the eye, and we're going to do the eye in acrylic resin instead of plaster. The resin is very easy to work with, much easier and simpler than plaster. You simply mix powder into liquid and mix it either according to the manufacturer's specification or to the desired thickness based on the application you intend to use it for. Some acrylic resins seem to be more forgiving when it comes to mix ratio, which means you can play around with it more, and the one that I have here, which is called hydro resin, is very forgiving with the mix ratio. So for the splash coats that I do, I will usually mix up a little bit of a thicker version than what they recommend, so more powder than they recommend on the label, and then I use it for the splash coat. This gives me a thicker splash coat that sets up a bit faster and sticks better to vertical surfaces, which means that I can build up thickness or an even thickness of splash coat fairly fast, and I've never really had any issues with too many air bubbles even when I mix a thicker coat like this. The resin takes a while to set up, perhaps 45 minutes before it's ready for the second coat, which is going to be for applying fiberglass to reinforce the casting. The principle is the same as with the burlap for plaster. The fiberglass adds strength without the need for a lot of resin, giving us a lighter and probably stronger casting overall as well. One layer of fiberglass is going to be more than enough for most castings, and certainly enough for a small casting like this. Now, if you're making a mold out of resin, which I often do, you might want to do 2 layers of fiberglass because most molds get abused a bit more than most castings. Most castings are just going to go on a shelf or on the wall, and therefore 1 layer is enough. Finally, because we also have to bang the plaster mold off of this resin casting, we're going to build a wall here as well. This one can be a bit thinner than the plaster wall since the plaster is a bit weaker than the resin. I also decided here to use the extra resin leftovers to cover the inside of the casting in an even layer of resin to keep the casting from coming apart and anyone from injuring themselves on a random sharp piece of fiberglass sticking out of the inside of the mold during handling and hanging of the casting. That's it for today's video. Now we'll let these castings sit overnight, giving the casting and plaster time to dry a bit more, and the molds even more time to dry, which should aid us when removing them, keeping them from being too crumbly and sort of like trying to peel a wet cracker apart. Thank you for watching until the end of the video. I hope you learned a thing or two that you can take with you into your own practice. Please let me know what you thought about the video in the comments below if you have the time, and until next time, stay creative.